Welcome back to Raj Family's Happily Ever After. Today we have a very exciting topic to talk about. And what is that, my love?
Interracial marriage or relationships.
Yes. We're going to see a little bit of how it has been with us, what were our expectations, what we thought it would be, and was it the same or was it different? How she grew up and how I grew up, is it the same or is it different? We will look at it today.
Are we really an interracial marriage?
We are interracial couples for sure, externally, I would say.
Externally. That's a good way to put it.
Yes. So, the first question is, how was your childhood? How was it when you were growing up? What were some cultural things that you had, whether it is in your family or whether it is in your country, wherever you grew up? How was it?
Well, I was born, like I shared in one of the first episodes, in Southern California. So I was born in the United States, and I actually had Hispanic. It's so hard to put it into technical words, but a Spanish speaking home. My grandparents from my dad's side were from Argentina, so there was a lot of influences from Argentina and Spanish. So I grew up speaking Spanish, and when I was 5, we moved to Argentina. So it was like going back to my roots. Everyone there spoke the same language I spoke at home, so it really felt comfortable. And big things from the culture I grew up was social connections. Just social life was huge, gathering with friends and talking. People in Argentina would sit on the porches and like beside the street and just talk with friends, bring chairs, drink mate, just have their little snacks and just talk, connect, and just share. And so a big thing as well is in the culture, they love asking. They love getting to know people. So you will be drilled with questions most of the time by anybody just because they like to know. There's a lot of curiosity and interest in each other's lives. It can be perceived as nosy, and sometimes you want a little more privacy, but at the same time, it is beautiful to know that people truly want to take the time to get to know about your life, about everything. So I grew up with that, and then I always yearned for that. And in other places where the culture is more different, I would feel like people don't ask questions, and am I just supposed to speak about myself to share? Like, I was not used to that. So for me, it was so important to ask other people questions, but also to receive questions so that you would deepen the friendship. And another thing is huge in hospitality. So even if the homes are super simple, they don't have much, but they will make you feel like the most important guest and try to, give you whatever they can and offer you always something to drink or eat. That's like part of the culture to offer you food. And then I adopted many things from that culture of hospitality, of cooking, of serving, people. And I faced other cultures that were like, why are you asking me if I'm hungry, if I want to eat? Like, do you see me like with a face that I'm hungry? And I was like, it's not about that. It's not that I see like you're starving, but it's just always a kind gesture. And it's like being polite to always offer and serve food, drink, make you feel comfortable, whatever, when you come to my home. So those things I realized, whoa, not every place is the same. So that was very unique to South American culture, the social life, the connections, the food, the hospitality. And the other thing I would say is the expression of affection, which is not only in the home, but in social relationships in general, even with strangers, unless it's really like a president or someone like that is very up there in a position, you will, greet with a hand. But if not, you generally always will give a hug or kiss. And in certain parts of Argentina, actually, you give 2 kisses. So it kind of goes like this. So you put your cheeks and you kind of do the noise just to do the kissing part, but you not necessarily really kiss the person, but more is like a formal greeting. And the hugging is also you're not like squeezing to the person like it's your best friend or your husband, but it's more like a formal, with respect type of greeting. So, for those that are not familiar with it, unless someone is really trying to take advantage or thinking about something else,
Trying to be
it's
inappropriate.
right. It's a very formal yet more warm way of greeting and just connecting and making everyone feel like family. Basically, that's how it is. So quickly you can feel like you have friends and like you appreciate each other. And so that's the culture I basically grew up with. Some differences were because my mom, her father is from Germany, so she had a lot of that more formal, polite, plan ahead type of personality, which is different from South America, that is more impromptu. You can,
Spontaneous.
yes, spontaneous, very, like just outspoken, and you just go to your friend's house or you do whatever, but without necessarily planning it. But my mom would always be like, you know, you don't just show up to people's place. You need to ask first. Like, that was a politeness that was inculcated growing up in me and my brother, because I believe it was more of the German influence in the culture. So my family was like a mix of German with South American.
Mix.
Yes, a blend of the two. So that was, I think, and well, in Argentina, a lot of the influence as well as from Italy and Spain. So we have a lot of those vibes in food and in culture in general.
And your dad has a little bit of Italian, right? In him?
Yes, a
Okay.
mix of Italian, French, and Spanish. So,
Okay. Okay.
and how was it for you growing up?
Well, growing up, um, I would say that we were not like very, very, very traditional family, because I don't know, somehow we got influenced a little bit more in the Western side. However, we did have our own Indian culture in the family, or in the surroundings we grew up in. Like, as you shared, in the evenings when we kids are out playing, our parents would come out, bring their chairs, and sit down with the neighbors, and then they would be chatting and we would be playing. So it is more like you feel nice because your parents are watching you playing, because you feel secure, and they are having a good time chatting, gossiping, or talking whatever. And then we would be, as kids, be playing around. And that is one thing that I grew up with. Another thing is totally opposite to how German culture, I guess, in your family you grew up with. In, we don't ask permission to go to friend's house. Like, if I have to go to my friend's house, I walk up to their house. And the same thing happens with me. Like, they would come to our house and they will ask me, like, hey, in my high school they asked me, hey, would you want to come and play PlayStation with us? So we never had that type of formality where you have to plan and go, unless it is a new friend that you're trying to really be friends with and you don't know where the house is, you ask permission and all of that. But if you're already friends with, you walk up to the house. And the funny thing is, if they are eating, they're going to feed you. Even if you've eaten already, or even if you say no, they are going to feed you. At least the minimum they would do is give you a coffee or a tea or milk or something they would give you. And it was fun, growing up, because you don't have so many adulthood responsibilities. You just go around playing with your friends, and then here you get to eat, and then you come home, and then your parents have food for you as well. You don't dare say, oh, I just ate, so I'm not going to eat. You have to eat that as well. So it was fun. And another thing with our culture, definitely hugging is a no-no. While I was growing up, now it has become more common. I guess there's been more Western influence in the country, but while I was growing up, hugging was a no-no. The max you would do is shaking hands, especially when it comes to opposite gender. Not with the same gender, but opposite gender. And now it has become more common. Even in my 20s, I remember it started coming in. The hugging culture started coming in. But do we hug and kiss others? We do it within the family members. I hug and kiss my brother, my mom, and vice versa. And it's like that within the family, but not outside. So it was a really huge culture shock for me when I came to the US, when people would come and are about to hug. I would feel very shy. Like, oh, okay. And yeah, so those are some things that I grew up with as well.
So
And
interesting, to look back into how culture influenced our family,
yes.
how it influences till now certain things, how we do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I I remember I cannot not say this. When I was in the school in the US, there was this time, there was this girl that came to hug me, and I stretched out my arm, just like, yeah, why not? Because I didn't realize that she was coming to hug me. She got offended. She got offended, and yeah. So from that time onwards, I didn't want to be offensive, but I was shy as well.
Right.
But then learning about the culture, and as you were sharing all those details, it didn't seem inappropriate as how I imagined, It was not as bad as how I imagined, basically. It was like a nice formal gesture, and you are done with it. And you don't really read into it, you don't think
Right.
anything inappropriate about it, you're fine with
But
it.
it's important to understand, right? If you
Exactly.
come and you're not aware, it's like, what in the world? Are they trying to get closer to me? And
Exactly.
yeah, it can
Exactly.
be confusing when
Exactly.
you don't know the roots of each culture.
So before we got married, there's the next question. What were some differences that you thought you might see in me?
Or some misconceptions.
Misconceptions. Yeah.
Um, I well, number one, I never actually imagined married an Indian, that I would marry an Indian guy. I think the first reason is I was not very familiar with the culture. I didn't know much about traditions, ways of life. So that was, I think, a big major thing. I was not really familiar with the culture. Number two, each country has its own worldview from the outside. Maybe it's not the real truth, but each country has, you think, oh, United States is Hollywood, or the Middle East, it's a lot of abuse and this and that goes on. And so you have different perceptions of different places because that's what generally is in the news or the movies, but not necessarily the truth. So one misconception I had, and I kind of label it, that's everyone there like that, is that guys tended to be more controlling, and that in Indian culture, and so ladies were like more subject to their dictatorialship. And later on I've come to find out there's both ways sometimes. It depending the marriage and everything. So I was like, I'm really envisioning to have a husband I can respect, look up to, and I can truly be a wife according to God's principles. But I'm not expecting to be abused, misused, and just treated like nobody. And so I was like, that's not for me, And culture is so strong that it can even impact Christians. And so I was like, I think that's not going to go with my values, what I envision of life. So that was one area. And the other one was like, I feel they're too cold. They're not expressive, affectionate. They're very like right and righteous. And so in that, they're not, warm and funny and connected. Obviously, I had not seen all the movies and all the drama in India that is so romantic. But that not necessarily, all the movies, not necessarily is the reality.
Yes, absolutely not.
But I was like, no, I'm not interested in a guy that is cold and just not expressive. And I was truly wrong. You proved that that was a misconception, because I believe, yes, in every country there are uniqueness and differences. Not everyone is the same. Some people are more reserved, some are more expressive, but there's variety. And so those were the two biggest ones that I was like, that's not for me. So to marry an Indian was not an option in my mind until I met you. And well, I came to find out a lot of things that were wrong, and to just learn about the culture and to see more similarities with my culture than what I ever imagined. So,
Yeah.
how about for you?
For me, of course, I wanted to marry a German, and I've shared it already in my previous episodes. I wanted to marry a German, but every time I shared it with people, people would be like, why Germans? They are mean people. They are this and that. It did make me wonder, is it like that bad? People, Germans are really that bad? But I don't know why, but I've been wanting to marry a German since my childhood. But then coming to the US and learning about different cultures and seeing Hispanic cultures, I saw the hugging part and the kissing part. I was really not comfortable with envisioning my wife doing that with other guys because of the culture I grew up with. So I didn't know much about how it was going to go, and I was really not comfortable even the thought of having my wife kiss another guy. So, of course, after seeing several people, I really understood. Okay, it is not anything sexual. It is not about
Inappropriate.
inappropriateness. It is about the culture, and if they are hugging, and that is that. That's it. There is nothing more. There is no hints. If they are kissing, that is that, and there is nothing more than that. So that is one of the misconceptions that I had, and I'm glad I was able to see it even before. So I didn't really put myself into a box where no, I don't want my wife to hug anyone else because it is part of the culture. Another thing is the wives. This is from my own culture. The wives not letting the husband spend time with their guy friends. I didn't know how other cultures were that much. Of course, I've seen several movies and the wives seem to be fine, but movies are not necessarily real life
Right.
always. So I was also thinking about that. I do not want a wife who is going to separate me from my friends, where I cannot do anything with my friends. I want to spend time with my friends every now and then, even if it is not in person, at least through phone. And I want my wife to understand that and give me that freedom, give me that space, because I can do a lot of things with my wife, but I cannot do everything that I do with the guys with my wife. Some programs that I would like to watch, you might not be interested in. The girl might not be interested in, but my friends are interested in. I would like to watch with them. So I was thinking about those aspects as well, and thank God I married you, because I can definitely see that we give each other that space, give each other that, have each understanding for each other, and let us spend time with our friends as and when needed. And I appreciate that. I think those are pretty much my main concerns, and we will actually talk more about our certain differences. We will talk in other episodes, but for now, what do you think about our marriage, even with our differences and our similarities? What are your thoughts about it?
I love it. I love the marriage. I love the uniqueness that comes with differences, because I always was passionate about cultures, learning about them, not really languages. And I think that's a weakness, because that's a big difference we have. It's the biggest differences, I guess, with us would be language. I speak Spanish, he speaks Tamil and Telugu, and they're nowhere
Nowhere,
alike. Like
yeah,
they
nowhere
do not
similar.
match, not even in one word. Maybe in one word, but so that's a huge difference. And when we're with family and friends and we speak our mother tongues, we're fine with each other, but definitely we should invest more time in learning the
Learning it
basics
first, yeah.
to connect more, because that's when you feel like, okay, definitely there's something that it's different here. Besides that, and the food, which we will also talk more in another episode, there's a lot I feel that we connect with. Not only of how we were raised, our family cultures that started with simple things like doing devotionals together, praying together, just enjoying company of family and having the mother in the home, even through difficult times sometimes. Those things I feel unite us, our values, and even though maybe you were more reserved in your culture, I was more free because of the style. I also have a high standard in respect and modesty, or just being cautious, not only in a hug, that you can give a side hug and be very formal yet kind, but in our way of how we act, how we look, how we behave, all of those things can lead. Maybe I don't even touch a guy, but I'm texting the whole time, or so having certain values that we can connect with, even though we have differences, I feel we have a lot more in common to the core. And like I said yesterday, it's like, I don't feel we're an interracial. I feel we are from the same roots. And yes, we have a couple things that are very different. And then a lot of other things that we might be different, but with anybody, it will be
It'll
like
be
that.
different, yes.
So I feel like you are from my roots.
Well, I'm glad. Because, yes, as much as we enjoy our differences, I do appreciate our similarities, because it makes the connection more smooth and stronger, because we have the same mindset in terms of the culture, in terms of what we want for our lives, what we want for our own family,
That's right.
and all of that. And I can definitely say that I see there is so many more similarities than differences. And as you said, yes, we might be different in our skin color, but in terms of the culture, the way we process things, to an extent, we are very similar in that.
Yes.
And I really thank God for that, because it helps us to be together even more strongly.
Yes. No, and I love his skin color. And I'm so happy if God gives us kids, they will have the perfect skin color that I always wanted. So
Absolutely.
God gives us in each other things that are a blessing and that complement and that help us to grow and to just, enjoy life more fully. So,
Yeah. And we will be talking more about this interracial marriage thing that we are doing. We will talk more in future episodes, but we would like to know what are some things that you have faced, differences or similarities in your marriage, whether it is interracial or maybe not even interracial, but
It's
still
true.
you'd have had your differences and similarities. We would like to know really what is going on in your families as well. And stay tuned. We have a lot more to put out so that you can watch and you can be part of our family as well.
Thank you for watching and joining the Happily Ever After podcast. And we hope to see you next time.